When Ron Casey passed away earlier this year, people looked back on an extraordinary television career. And perhaps the interview that turned out to be his signature interview was the one he conducted with the great Rocky Marciano, here in these studios back in 1966.
Time to introduce our John Brown sports star of the day, and we're leaving football for this week, and we're going to introduce to you one of the great personalities of the world of sport. I refer to Rocky Marciano. Rocky Marciano, as a professional boxer, fought 49 times. He was never beaten. He won 43 fights by knockout. He won the world title in 1952. He defended it 6 times and retired undefeated. We're very happy to say welcome to World of Sport to Rocky Marciano. And in just one moment, we'll be speaking with our John Brown sports star, Rocky Marciano. Well, Rocky, it's great to have you here at World of Sport. And as you can see, all the fans here enjoy having a champion with them here in the studio. There's the champions of all sport here in Melbourne, and we're very happy to have another one from America now to say hello to us throughout Victoria.
Thank you, Ron.
Rocky, how do you feel about the result of the heavyweight title fight this morning? Cassius Clay stopping Brian London in only 3 rounds.
Well, it was expected. Really, this was not a fight of importance. I think it's what Cassius Clay himself calls the Bum of the Month Club. He's keeping quite busy, trying to get as many fights as he can before going in the Army, and that I'm sure will happen. And so it was no surprise to me, because back in '59, May of '59, Floyd Patterson, then the heavyweight champion of the world, made easy work of Brian London. And at that time, the American press at least didn't give Brian any kind of credit for anything in boxing. He has not been thought of very much as a heavyweight contender or as a heavyweight fighter. And in my book, the match should have never been made.
How do you rate Cassius Clay?
At this time, I rate Clay, of course, the best in the country, in the world, as a heavyweight fighter. I don't really know how good he is. He has never been hit on the chin with a good punch. He's been able to get away from punches extremely well. In fact, I believe this is his greatest asset, getting away from punches, as he did in the Cooper fight. Cooper couldn't hardly hit him. And although it was a fair fight to watch, of course, Cooper didn't hit him once good, and Clay then went on to cut his eye and win the fight. And Clay, all of Clay's fights, he's never been really outstanding. He has had a couple of fights with Sonny Liston that are kind of question mark, dubious. He didn't show real well in them because perhaps he didn't have a chance to show real well with not a good opponent in there. I think it's going to take a good opponent to show just how good Cassius Clay is.
Rocky, there's some remarkable statistics about yourself as a champion. This was the cause of the fight that you fought, or the way that you fought, in that Nat Fleischer lists you as having the shortest reach of any heavyweight champion. Is correct?
Yeah, that is absolutely right. 67 inches this way here, which is not very long.
Well, that's not much more than Rocky Gattalari, our flyweight champion.
That's about right.
Now, did you have to devise the swashbuckling style of punch fighting that you did because of the short reach?
Yes, that was the big reason. I had to sort of get low and try to come up, as we say, from underneath to get in close on an opponent, because the closer I could get to an opponent, the more damage I could do with the short arms. At long range, I just couldn't jab with the great jabbers, such as Joe Louis. When I fought him in '51, he had 11 inches reach on me and was able to just pop that left in my face and keep me at a distance. I had to sort of crowd and move in on him, and that is why the style was really developed.
Rocky, I know that there were overtures made to you, not entirely for reasons financial, to make a return to the ring. This was when Sonny Liston was still champion. Did you ever have the temptation to come back?
It happened before the Sonny Liston fight, actually. Floyd Patterson became heavyweight champion a year after I retired. He then had a few fights with Archie Moore and a few other boys that weren't exciting at all. And then along came Ingemar Johansson, the good right-hand punching fighter from Sweden. And when he won that fight, and I was sitting ringside, he knocked out Floyd Patterson, and it was a dramatic punch, a straight right on the chin, and Floyd Patterson just went backwards and never recovered from that one punch. Ingemar Johansson became the idol, and there was a lot of talk, and there was a lot of spirit amongst fight fans at this time. And this is when I got the urge to come back. I'd only been retired 3 years at the time. I wasn't too far out of good condition, and I took a little vacation for myself. I went away to a training camp close to my home by myself and tried to get myself in condition again as I once did. But I just couldn't. I didn't have the same feeling. I didn't have the same hunger. And for other reasons, I just couldn't concentrate on boxing as I once did. And so I thought it best not to have any publicity on it, but just to go home and call it another day.
If Cassius Clay had been a challenger for your world title, would you have been confident of retaining your title against Cassius Clay?
Well, I certainly would have enjoyed a fight with Cassius Clay. He's what we call a perfect opponent. He's tall, he's big, he's rangy. He's on the style of a Joe Louis. I'm talking about physically now. He has the same abilities, perhaps not as great a left jab as Joe Louis, but certainly abilities close to Joe Louis. I can say, again, I don't know how great this man is. He could possibly be a great fighter, and time will tell.
Is Cassius Clay good for boxing?
Yes and no. In the beginning, yes. When he first came around, he really got the public excited. He was calling the round, knocking out his opponents at the exact round that he said he would.
Have you ever done this?
No, I never could. It just isn't that way. It isn't that easy. Most of my fights were hard fights and tough fights, and I didn't have the same confidence that Clay has. But in the beginning, Clay was good for the game. I mean, he brought a lot of new life into boxing. I remembered people other than boxing fans were getting interested in this young loudmouth. And then he overdid it. He talked a little bit too much, a little bit too long, and he talked about the wrong things. And when he brought his religion into the picture, it sort of changed the whole entire setup of boxing. And for the last 2 years at least, two years, he's been sort of bad for boxing.